Innovate, ignite, inspire conversations that count. Oh, so excited to be here today. You can start living your best life through this series. The series has so many diverse topics. It's amazing. And today we have another great topic. So really this series to help you just understand the topics that we discuss at a much deeper level. And we have these great panel discussion and expert people that we're interviewing that just have so much wisdom. And so today we're going to be talking about accessing your inner guru, because it's true. We all have the ability to access the answers that we seek within ourselves. We've just been programmed to believe that we have to look outside of ourselves, to authority figures or to, a religious icon or to other people for validation. And while it's really important to continue to work with mentors and guides and people that are that have maybe more knowledge or wisdom in an area, it's necessary for guidance. It's also really important, especially now, to go within and learn how to do that and learn how to access your own answers, because this is really what liberates you. So we've selected some amazing experts today to share their wisdom in this. And each panelist is going to give you some tools that's going to help you access your own inner guru. So I'm just going to introduce everyone real quickly, and then we'll dive into the interview process. So we have Jennifer Regular. Jennifer is a contributing writer for the Sacred You blog. She's known as the Soul Illuminator. Jennifer Regular uses her incredible sense of intuition and insight to guide purpose-driven entrepreneurs to focus on the difference that they want to make in alignment with their soul calling, while effectively managing their time and energy to prevent overwhelm. She's an international speaker, author of Embrace Your Power, a healing journey of self-discovery, and host of the Awaken and Ascend podcast. And then we have Xavier King. He is the tribe host of Spirituality for the Gender Diverse and co-host of the Soul Hypnotherapy and Tarot tribe with a focus on energy healing. Xavier is a transpersonal clinical hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, Reiki master teacher, and psychic and spiritual coach who works with people in developing foundations within themselves to alleviate the conditioning and work with all parts of the self. And then we have Jenn Rosner is the host of Conscious Law of Attraction Tribe. Having spent most of her life afraid, living in the shadows, hiding and existing instead of living, she was constantly at war with herself, which created lots of mental chaos and exhaustion. These things put her on a journey of self-discovery and healing, and through therapy, energy work, belief clearing, self-improvement books and courses and schooling, she felt like there was still something fundamentally wrong. And it wasn't until she found the work that she does that she finally was able to let go of the idea that she was broken. Now her mission is to help others let go of the limitations, ideas, and beliefs that are holding them back from reaching their fullest potential and becoming the best version of themselves. Jenn is a LMT, I'll let you say what that is, and certified magnetic mind coach. And she's well-versed in and the use of Reiki, theta healing, subconscious belief clearing, chakra balancing, and tarot intuition. And then we have Joanne. Anne Irwin is an emotional and energetic healer and manifestation coach. She's the creator of Empower You and Finding You programs, co-author in the book series A Journey to Riches, The Gift in Challenges, and she's a speaker. Trained in many modalities, she's a master practitioner of NLP and hypnosis, results coaching, personal and business, and regression therapy. Jo helps people who struggle with anxiety and overwhelm. Most have tried everything and feel exhausted and fed up with not getting the results that they want. She intuitively guides her clients to break through their unconscious programming, patterns, and limiting beliefs so that they can reprogram their brain for permanent change to attract the success they crave. And I'm Lisa. I'm an intuitive mentor and channel and working with clients who've plateaued to rise up to their higher calling and quantum leap their results. My clients align to their expanded gifts and embody their most powerful, bold, courageous self so that they can be pleasure, ease, and playfulness, leading others from their own lightness of being. And as they shift into a higher state of being, they enjoy the practical aspects of the world through the lens of magic. So, welcome everyone. So glad you're here. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to talk about accessing the inner guru. And what I'd like to do is just start by asking each one of you, what does being your own guru mean to you? So Jennifer, let's start with you.
Hi there. Yes, for me, it's really tuning into yourself, being able to come back to what you know, learning to trust yourself again, really tap into your own innate wisdom, your own innate knowing. That's what it means to me, to really go inside to your true source of your information, your power, your wisdom, and being able to access it there.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, it's knowing. It's that inner knowing. It's the trusting that inner knowing, and accessing the wisdom from a higher place. So thank you for that. Xavier, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I agree with both of your statements, and I was just ruminating on what else I would like to add, and I feel like being in tune with your inner guru also allows you these other tools like discernment and being intuitively guided to navigate your life, and being able to not only just trust yourself, but allow that foundation to blossom into being able to trust the environment around you and the existential characteristics of it, and being able to work your way through those things. And it literally is the core of all that is created around you. That's what I would like to add to that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. It is. It's the core of what's created around you, because we create our own reality. And so having a better trust and understanding of how to create that through our tapping into that inner guru is important. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. Jenn.
So I'm going to echo and ditto what everyone else has said. And really just I want to add that it's about letting go of all the ideas of who you think you are, and realizing and remembering that you are this pure creative spirit having this human experience. And then when you remember that, you the hope is, and as you get better at it, is that you can just be in the present moment and know that whatever action needs to be taken next will come to you. And you can just lean on that and know that you don't have to like plan out everything in the future. You can say, this is what I want to create. And then ask yourself, what's the next action step? And then start taking the action step. And it always will be there, that action step. And then also it's with the discernment, it becomes like a truth detector, I guess. You know, when you're working with mentors or other people and they say something, you can actually look and say, is this true? Is this true for me? Is this true? And then it'll tell you if it's true or not. And then you can do what you want with that information. You know what I mean? You can use it or not, but it helps you understand, like, you look at yourself and say, is this true for me? And so you cut out a lot of the bullshit from other people. And yeah.
I love that. I always say fact has a new definition these days. And the fact is your truth. Like, your truth gets to be fact. That's the fact to me. That's my definition of fact these days anyway. So I love that you mentioned that, and that we are remembering who we are and how powerful we are, and how and that power is the ability to create the life that we want, to be in that creation space, not from the head, not from the thinking mind and trying to figure it out mind, right? That to me is the difference in what you're talking about, Jenn, is allowing the unfoldment of what's to happen and taking action on those next little nudges that you have, instead of doing it the old way, because it's so much easier and more joyful and playful when you know how to walk in the unknown and allow that to be your experience. So thank you for that. Love it. Joanne, I want to hear from you.
Absolutely. I think we're all on the same page with all that's been said so far. And I guess the only thing that I want to just extend on is this embodiment part where, you know, you're using your body as the wisdom to guide you as well. So like Lisa said, taking it out of your head and into your body. And it sounds really simple, right? But it's a definite practice that we need to, you know, continue even after doing it for many, many years, you know, because we're so entrained to go out of our body into our heads. It's just automatic. So yeah, coming back to that wisdom inside yourself, inner guidance, I like to call it, and checking in on a regular basis is really an important piece of continuing to listen, right? Listen to what's our truth. And the other thing I think is that we tend to also beat ourselves up a bit, you know, when we're not on our path. But we've got to realize that they're just little signposts to tell us to come back, right? To come back to our truth, and something's obviously not working, and we just make the shifts, right? Adjusting as we go. So yeah, it's a definite practice.
It is a definite practice. And I love that you brought up embodiment, because in the last couple of years, that has been so huge for me. You know, I mean, I spent most of my career in health and wellness and body work, and I didn't listen still. Like, I kept pushing myself to burn out and to all the stuff that, you know, probably many of us used to do in our past old lifetimes. And this piece of embodiment and the body's wisdom, and how it speaks to you when you do listen, how much wisdom it has to move you forward, is amazing. It's amazing. And so what I believe is that's where we're headed. You know, we started from our thoughts, our thinking mind, and then, you know, everybody was talking about going into the heart and really, you know, living from your heart, which is great. And the next phase for us is really to live through this body wisdom, to take all of the energy that we have in our field and bring it into our body and anchor it into our body, and live from and get the wisdom from that space. So I love that you brought that up, because this is a huge passion of mine as well. So thank you for that. Yeah, such a great start to this topic. And I guess for those that are listening and maybe don't even know how to begin to access their inner guru, I would love to hear from each of you. If you have a tip for the listeners, that would be like just a beginning place where they could have a practice or have a tool where they could start to tap into that inner guru. So who would like to share the first tool? I can pick on you guys if you want. All right, we'll just go with Joanne. We'll go backwards.
Fantastic. Okay. For me, it's all about, well, where I started was all about the breath, and using the breaths to take you down, to take you deep. And, you know, for many, many years of my spiritual journey, I spent it up here, right? I was up in the realms of, you know, whatever's possible. And it was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I was in my element, but I never really knew how to bring it down and like you said, embody it into the body, and grounding it into the earth and using the wisdom of the earth to support you there. I know that sounds really deep, but, you know, I do a practice that, you know, embodies, and a lot of my work now is taught around the womb space, you know, male or female, but just the where we land there. And I feel like when we can access that, we are more present to be able to get the messages that we need. So breath is taking you deep down to relax your body, to be able to release the tension, to be able to receive what it is you need to receive for you. And it's quite profound, really, when you start, using this tool of grounding and belly and expansion. And, it's an amazing experience when you can, go there and get the messages. You're like, whoa, it's just so incredible that to be able to, because you're present, right? You're out of here, you're present, you're actually being in a space of receiving. Okay, so just really feeling it. And I even go deeper into the roots of the legs and down into the earth, just to get you started. Just practice embodying down, down, down. Imagine your feet on the ground, and the earth feeding you and nourishing you, and taking yourself really out of the head into the body again. So that would be my number one practice to start with, breath.
Yeah.
And bring
that.
Yeah.
I love that, and before I did breath work, I would hear about breath work and I'm like, yeah, so boring. But it is so good. It's so good. It's just so good. And it does bring you right into your body. And it is the basis of all of it, of who we are. And so I love that you talk about breath work. And I also love that you talk about like being up here. And that's where so many of us spent our time, in the other dimensions of floating around. But that's not where we can get the most of our work done. Like, we've got to bring it into our body so that we can embody the experience and then radiate out who we're here to be, right?
Yes, because when you're there, you're actually accessing from here.
Yes.
We're in here, but accessing from here. It's quite amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Joanne. Jenn.
So, the first thing I would say is that meditation obviously is a great tool. But I think before we can even get into the meditation, we need to be able to clear our minds, right? And we need to sit here. And so I think the best way to start is to take, even 5 minutes and just notice how you're feeling. And just write down, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling this way, and start getting that out of the system. And then you can say, okay, so I'm feeling this way. What can I access what I'm telling myself to feel this way? Because our thoughts create our feelings. And so then you start telling yourself the thoughts. And then once you get those out of your head, out of your body, you should have a little bit of a clear channel. Then I would say you can step into innocence, which means like there's meditations you can do, but even if you just picture like a baby in a crib and looking at this baby, this like newborn baby, and connecting with this baby and allowing yourself to kind of meld with this baby and step into that awe, step into that innocence place. Then you can start asking yourself from that place, okay, so whatever you need to ask yourself, and just start building on that, and the thing I do want to say is have patience and kindness. We are programmed, our whole life we've lived a certain way. We have all these thoughts, all these feelings and everything. And sometimes it's not comfortable, but, we have to let it out. We have to let all these things out, because these things are stopping us from connecting to who we really are. And so even if you can just do like a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, that's great. And even if you can't do it, that's great too. It's just about allowing it and wanting it. And that's the biggest thing. Choosing. I choose, to connect to the predominant creative force in my life. I choose to be, connect to my inner guru. And just that act of choosing it, that helps too. And that even if that's all you can do for the day is choosing it, that's good enough, and it'll keep building. The more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it.
Yeah, that's so great. I love that you talk about clearing and choosing, because the thing that makes the difference, that moves the needle forward, if you will, for our life is choosing to not be on autopilot, is choosing not to just, if you want an extraordinary life, if you don't want to live just a mediocre, like going through the motions life, then it requires you to do something different, a different choice, a different, out of the routine. The only way we can do it is by not being in the routine of everyday life. And unfortunately, the routine is where comfort happens. You get comfortable in the routine, and it makes you feel, it gives you this sense of everything's okay and safety. So how can you create this sense of safety and while you're still moving forward? And it's that choosing over and over again. So maybe we'll talk about safety a little bit later, but I love that you that this is coming out of this. So thank you, Jenn. Xavier, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so I love that you segued into talking about needing to do different things, because my tip is actually a bit more of making yourself really uncomfortable. Go and do and experience new things, because that does a multitude of things. But the main thing that it does is it creates new sensations in the body for you to be aware of. Because for me, I have found that I struggle a bit to get into meditation, to get into breath work, to do those things, because I was in a lot more of like when I started my journey, I was in a lot more of like a heightened state of like stress and anxiety. So I really struggled with those things. But what helped me to be able to come down and get into my body was to like work out those emotions. And by doing that, I did like things that made me afraid. So like it would even be going to have dinner by myself and go and sit where I had to interact with other people. And that made me feel terrified, but then that allowed me to be able to recognize my emotions. And then in recognizing them and being able to identify how they came up in my body and the thoughts that they produced and the sensations that they produced, then that allowed me to be able to like identify them in my normal life where I would be in autopilot regularly. So once I was able to do that, then I feel like I was able to kind of settle and come into my body and then start to do that really somatic embodiment work. But before that, I couldn't do that at all. So if you're like me and you struggle to do those things, and maybe you're more action orientated and you're like, oh, I've got to be on the go all the time. I found that basically doing exposure therapy and making myself be put in new experiences and to have that like element of like uncomfortability and action, to then help me to learn to listen to myself and recognize my sensations and emotions and stuff, really helped me to navigate more of what's happening internally and then be able to view my external world in a completely different way.
Yeah, I love that. So good. And again, it's consciously choosing that experience to grow, right? Because you know that that's like anything you have fear around is calling you forth. It's calling you into, this is where you need to go so that you can get to whatever it is that's past that fear.
Yeah.
So good. Do you have something else?
No.
Yeah. And I love that you talk about the somatic body work, because that's been super pivotal for me as well. But you can't get there if you're in a survival state, or you're in a trauma response, or if you're in a fight, flight all the time. It doesn't work to just say, just relax, because your body doesn't know how to do that. So I love that you brought that up too.
And it's hard too. I mean, I feel like I put that in a nice, neat little package to provide verbally, but it can be anything for anyone. Like there are so many things I think that each of us find to be uncomfortable that will help us to grow and get on that growing edge of life, but also of being able to understand ourselves. So whatever it is, even if it's just like going for a walk, that can be the kickstart of allowing more flow of those types of things to come in. And it's kind of like even putting in boundaries with people. The more that you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And then the less fear that you have, but the more that you can really trust yourself, because that's what it's all about, right? Is building the trust within yourself to know that you're capable, but also that you have all of this like multitude of stuff happening on the inside that allows you to know what's really you and what isn't.
Yeah, so good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Thank you. Yes, what such a rich conversation. And when you ask Lisa about a simple or beginning step to accessing your inner guru, what comes to mind for me is opening those lines of communication with yourself. And so if you're looking for answers, then what are your questions? What is the wisdom that you're seeking? So one thing that you can ask yourself as you get to know yourself and understand yourself better, as Xavier just mentioned, and cultivate that self-awareness, you can ask yourself, what are the sources of joy that I need to feel whole? That's one question. Because you can ask yourself that question. The joy vibration is pretty high. So it puts you on a different frequency, a different perspective, a different way of looking at things. And then that you need. So now you're addressing your needs and becoming aware of what you need to feel whole. When you're feeling whole, then you can access so much more that's inside and outside of you and be realigned with who you truly are and what you're meant to be doing. Like Joanne had mentioned earlier about sometimes we might beat ourselves up if we get off track with our purpose, for example. So coming back into that place of wholeness, we then can realign and be able to access our own innate wisdom moving forward. And so opening those lines of communication with ourselves through questions and answers, some self-reflection, perhaps through journaling, or just asking, maybe out on a walk, or there's that expression, be still and know. You know, people spoke about ways of finding that stillness as well. So really just opening those lines of communication is the first step, and being willing to cultivate that self-awareness, getting to know yourself. What are the sources of joy that I need to feel whole? It's a good place to start. It's one question you can ask.
Yeah, I love that questions, because when you're starting on this journey of like trying to be your own authority, be the, not go outside for answers, to be your own guru, to be your own authority, be the sovereign being. It's like you've got to start with the questions. You have to start with a question. I mean, it could be a simple question. What does blue mean to me? I mean, it doesn't matter what the question is, but then you get to explore this richness within yourself, and it brings up the old patterns, and it brings up new innovative things, and it brings up, like, there's so much there to explore. So yeah, I love that. Just being still and reflecting, asking yourself questions. It's so good. And so we've talked a lot about the fact that we need to build trust and have safety within ourselves and get to that level of joy and wholeness. Let's talk a little bit more about that and how that really helps you. Like, let's go deeper into how that helps you access this part within you that has the true wisdom, that has the knowingness. So Jennifer, do you want to start there?
When I think of safety, I also think of security, and some of the things that can make us or contribute to us feeling insecure and unsafe is when something is not true for us. It's not our truth. And yet someone like an authority figure, for an example, is really confident in what they're saying, and it seems like it's something that should be true and something we should follow and adhere to. It seems to make sense, and maybe other people are following that. And yet it doesn't feel true for us. It's not resonating with who we are, what we value, what we're willing to experience in life. And that can create some instability, some insecurity. It's like, then you start not trusting yourself because it's different from how other people are thinking or telling you to behave and so on. So I think that safety and security really needs to start from within. Otherwise, it's going to create the opposite vibration, which is fear.
Yeah. Such a great point. I love the way that you said that. Tuning into our own truth, knowing it's just the process of learning about you and who you are and what resonates with you and what words, what values, what, all of that exploration is so important, and it never stops. It never stops. Like, we're always exploring more of who, if we're on the path, which all of us, anybody listening is on the path. Like, it doesn't stop. You might have a lull where you're just, you're tired of diving deep and you just want to like float freestyle for a while. And that's okay too. It's like I've noticed for myself, I have these deep dives and then I kind of come up for air, and then I deep dive again and come up for air. And it doesn't matter if you're a spiral, if you're a straight line, if you go up and like, it doesn't matter what your journey is. We all have this unique rhythm to our journey of exploration and remembering who we're here to be and becoming more of that. So yeah, I love that, Jennifer. Jenn, I'd love to hear from you.
So for me, the most important thing is every day I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life. I choose the end result of being the predominant creative force in my life. And then I step into that. So I say, okay, so if this were the future, when it's done and dusted, like in a reality where I'm already that, what would it be like? And so I really step into it with all my senses. And it's like, okay, so what does it feel like? What does it look like? And that's me letting my unconscious and my body know that, okay, this is safe to have this, right? And letting you know that what it is. And so that's really how you start reprogramming the mind, reprogramming the body, by stepping into that. And then I'll look at my current reality and I'll ask myself, okay, so where am I now in relationship to that? And most of the time lately I've been oscillating, where some days I'll be good and some days I won't. It's like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And that's when I'll really look at, okay, so what's in the way? What's coming up for me that I'm having this oscillating pattern instead of being it, right? And so then I'll really start looking at it and do different processes. I'll look at my feelings, I'll look at my thoughts, I'll whatever it is, but whatever comes up, I will look at that point and then clear it out somehow in some process. I like the recodes, but there are a lot of other really cool processes out there to dive deep into, like, what's going on? What are you telling yourself? What sabotaging patterns are coming up? What are you telling yourself that's not true that you believe is true? And really just going deep, deep, deep into that. And then it's like, once I clear that out, then you can say, okay, so now I need to take the next action step. And what is that? And then I take that action step. And so what I want to create, which is being the predominant creative force in my life. Where am I now? What's in the way? Take the action, take the action, take the action. And that's the way that I've been doing it. And, sometimes it's really difficult because you hit a lot of resistance, like what I call, and you start battling yourself too, which is what I want to say, because as you're becoming this new version of yourself and letting go of who you were, that part of you, who you were, is going to fight you like to the death almost, because it doesn't want to change. It doesn't want to die. It doesn't want to shift. And so a lot of times, like, you have to face like this stuff, and it's not comfortable and it's not easy. But I can say it is worth it when you come out the other side.
What is one thing you can suggest to people that are going through that right now, that hitting up against resistance, and say they want to be here and they're here and they know that they have to change these things and they don't, and they're like a 2-year-old. I don't want to,
Yeah.
like, I mean, they're not saying that on purpose, but that's what the resistance is really kind of. How would you walk them through a process or a tip that would make that transition a little more, I guess, easier?
Well, the first thing I would say is resistance is part of the process. It's part of the creative process. The most successful people out there, okay, anyone you can think of, when they're creating something different or new, they're going to hit some sort of resistance. So first thing is, it's not personal, okay? That's what I really want people to understand. It's not personal. Everyone experiences resistance on some level. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing is that the resistance that comes up, a lot of it isn't even ours. A lot of it's been passed down from like 7 generations back. So it's family stuff. It's stuff we've learned. right? It's stuff we picked up from our family. So it's all this stuff that we think is us, but stuff that we've just been programmed, stuff we've learned, stuff we've been passed down. And so if you can shift that perspective that it's okay to have this, it's normal to have this. Everybody has some sort of resistance. It's not you. It's part of the structure of creating. So if you're having that, that's great, because that means there's movement. That means you're moving towards what you want to create. So congratulations on that, if you're stepping into that. So that's first thing I want to say. Second thing is, be kind to yourself, allow yourself to feel it as much as you can. And if you can sit through it to the best of your ability, sit through it, because resistance, tension seeks resolution. So all this tension, like as you're moving, if you sit through it, it has to move. It has to move. And every core of your being is probably screaming to go back to where you're comfortable, right? Because that's what you know, and that's what's safe. So if you can know that this is normal, this is part of it, hold on to the end result, that this is where I'm going. This is really what I want. This is part of it. It's stuff I've learned, stuff I picked up. It's not me. I'm okay. And hold on to it, hold on to it, hold on to it. Eventually it will move. And as you're going through it, just be kind to yourself. Do self-care. Do stuff that's fun if you can. Figure out what's fun. But even if you can't do something that's fun, just something that's just nurture yourself. Say, I love you. You can say, I love you. And, it's part of the process. It's just part of the process, and it sucks and it's hard and I don't like it, but it's normal. It's normal.
Take a lot of salt baths. That's funny. Gabrielle Bailey is loving this discussion. She says, thank you. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for watching and being here with us, Gabrielle. I appreciate it. I just, I want to share that one of the things that helped me as I was going through a lot of resistance, and it was more the fear, I know the resistance you're talking about too, but this was before that resistance came. It was the fear part of, I'm trying to create a reality and, oh my God, I got to let go of this. The way I got through that was by not going into what I don't want, but by staying in, what do I want? What is it that I want? And continuing to train myself to go to that question rather than backwards. It's like this backward spiral of oh, but I don't want this to happen. I don't want this. And then, it's that's where we want to go. The forward thing that gets you moving forward is, what do I want? And then, like you said, what does that feel like? And really knowing what that feels like. And that's the start of the process. And then the resistance, I'll just say, salt baths, a lot of body movement, a lot of trauma release exercises, a lot of, anything that feels really comfortable is the best thing to move through the resistance. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you. Thank you. Joanne, love to hear from you. I see you nodding your head.
Oh, yes. What a great and juicy conversation. I'm just loving this. It's amazing. So, totally, 100% what everybody's talking about here is I'm on board. And I feel like, yes, we do go back to what I call the default of what we're programmed to have. But the key is to get familiar and recognize when you are going back there, and then tuning in to see, well, what do I need? And in my work, I teach this as parts of ourself. Trauma parts of ourself, wounded parts of ourself that haven't been seen, that haven't been held, that haven't been acknowledged, that haven't been really felt safe, essentially. And like someone mentioned, safety and security is the number one need. So those parts of ourselves, and why I go here is because I traveled most of my life of self-discovery, not even knowing I was traumatized, not even knowing what had happened. And it wasn't until later in life that I recognized these parts, and I'm like, whoa, but holy, moly, what is this? And how do I navigate that? So it was learning to just as Jen said, be with it, hold this part, nurture it, tell it, it's almost like you meet your child at that place and you talk to it as you would your own child or your niece or your, someone that you love, and you give it that acknowledgement and that, so that they're being heard, and hold it and tell them, what would you say to that child that was wounded, that was hurting, and how would you would treat those parts exactly like you would treat your own child or a child that you're very close to, a relative, but asking, what do they need? What do they need? What do they truly need in this moment? And as Lisa said, it might be a salt bath. It might be a hug. It might be words of wisdom. It might be affirmations, whatever it is, and this is going back to that listening to what we need in any given moment, but also, just allowing whatever's to come up, because I know personally, I was holding it all in for so long, and it wasn't getting me anywhere in life. And mainly because I didn't know about it. And I wasn't ready to see it clearly until my later years. But it's such a beautiful process to be able to recognize when those parts are showing up in resistance, and consciously, consciously sitting with that part and giving it what it needs and what it wants until it passes. And it will pass. Okay, it doesn't have to take forever. But I feel like the part, just acknowledging it is so empowering, because they're not going to have a tanty, keep having those tanties, because it's not being seen, it's not being held, it's not being acknowledged. So I guess that would be my add-on there to this beautiful conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. It's so good. Yeah, sitting with your inner child, holding it, asking. I love the question, what do you need? What do you need right now? What do you need from me right now? We're so used to beating ourselves up. We're so used to being so self-critical.
Yeah.
And it was so normalized when we were all younger, and it's unraveling all that. And this kindness and compassion just can go to such a deep level for ourselves. So Ellen Catherine says, I'm in the space where I'm here getting ready to leave her job so she can step into her next level self as a leader, but she's noticing the resistance. So she appreciates this call. Awesome. That's great. And then Gabrielle saying, I feel like bits of my deep self split off as trauma response and making home base strong, loving, and safe. Those parts come back to being whole. Self-awareness comes via learning your own body, emotional language. Yeah, so true. Xavier, I'd love to hear from you on this. Trust and safety and all that good stuff.
Thanks for connecting back to that, because I feel like I got myself lost in the conversation and was like, what's the original question? And the thing that I would like to add to that is when it comes to like trust and safety and things like that, I like to celebrate the contrast. I like to recognize that when I'm feeling resistance, that is freaking cool, because that's a huge telltale sign that lets me know there is something that is not in my alignment right now. Like if you're looking for a sign, resistance is it. And that talks so loudly. Like if you can't recognize anything else, you can recognize resistance, right? That shows up in you as a whole bunch of things. For me, it shows up as like I get real frustrated and I get aggravated and I feel cranky and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. And I move to this place where like if it's something I have to do, say, right? We have a lot of things as adults we're supposed to do or we have to fulfill or we have, responsibilities. And even if I don't want to do them, I accept that I have to do them. And acceptance is such a thing in the world that we have been conditioned to believe is enough if we just accept these things. But I want to know how you can celebrate those things as well as celebrate yourself. So how do we move from acceptance to celebration, even when it comes to things that we don't want to do but we have to be responsible for, or when we get met with that resistance? How can we celebrate that resistance anyways? Because we should throw it a party. It is giving us a huge sign that says there's something to pay attention to here. So I fully agree with everything that everyone has said here, but for me, my first place is going, oh yeah, okay, thank you so much, like thank you, and I love you for coming up and showing me that I've got an issue here that needs to be looked at. Because I feel like when I was coming here, like I said earlier, like autopilot was such a thing for me, and I feel like the only thing that ever pulled me out of autopilot was resistance, but being able to recognize it as resistance, because I feel like all of us have this like base level emotional place that we come from. So maybe if you're an anxious person or you're an angry person, but your baseline is those emotions, you won't always notice resistance because it feels the same as you feel. So how else can we begin to like cultivate a relationship with that resistance that allows us to gain that self-awareness? So it's that just taking that conscious moment and going, I have feelings right now. I recognize that I feel really angry or I feel really anxious. And just taking that like even 30 seconds to acknowledge, hey, I have a feeling, even if it's normal for you. I have this feeling. Why? It's Tuesday and I want to know why. What is that? I feel like this all the time. And then that allows you to go, oh, hang on. And that's how you kind of gain that clarity, how you gain that self-awareness around it. Because I feel like we don't ever really talk about like, how do you get self-aware? How do you become aware of the resistance? How do you move through that into celebrating those things and into doing the actual work? Because I find that if we can't even recognize how to begin to become self-aware, then the rest of it becomes even harder. And so that's the only bit that I would add on to that, is that it is even just as small as going, what am I feeling right now? And where is that coming from? And the first thing that comes up in your mind is your subconscious mind letting you know. And often we discredit that. We're like, that doesn't make any sense. And we go, oh, I don't have any evidence for that. Yes, you do. Take another second to recognize that you do, and then you can look at the things around you, and that just kind of like takes that up leveling of that awareness even further. And then that just really cultivates that relationship with your foundational self, that innate knowing, that trust, that intuition, those things that you're trying to work on, listening and believing, and then moving from acceptance to celebration, and then doing the work. All of those things, they all have to work together cohesively. Otherwise you're going to end up right back in the same place that you're comfortable in, right?
Yeah, I love that. It's so good. Yes. And I think that just phrasing it that way is going to be super helpful for people listening that are like, oh, how do I even become aware? So thank you for that. And we're almost out of time, and I want to give you guys enough time to, talk about whatever offer you have briefly. But what I think would be super helpful for those listening is just a very, very brief, like one sentence from each of you on what can occur or what can happen when you start to do the work and you're able to access that inner guru. Like, why are we talking about this? What is the benefit of even doing this, so that people can know that this path, even though it can be very challenging, is rich and it's worth it. So what would you say to that? Xavier, why don't you start?
Make me have one sentence. So I would say, if you're interested in getting to know yourself and to understand your life, and just to have a deeper knowing about your existence here on this planet, because if you're listening to this, you have questions and you feel like there must be something more, right? Then this path could make that more interesting, could make it more fun, and then there is a trickle effect from that gains you this whole other extraordinary toolbox and experience.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you very much. Jenn.
So I would say that it's really worth it, because if you can get to the place where you know that you're okay no matter what, no matter what's going on outside of you, no matter what the world looks like, no matter what anybody says, no matter what, you know you're okay, and you can choose how you want to feel in any situation, even if the world's going to shit, even if your outside stuff's going to shit, you can say, you know what, that's fine. The world's going to shit, and I choose to be happy, and I choose to find joy, and I choose, right? So nothing outside of you can have power over you. And obviously I'm not there yet, but that's where I'm working, I'm working towards getting to that place where I am completely in my own power, that nothing outside of me has power over me. I get to choose how I want to react. I get to choose how I want to feel. I get to choose how I want to respond, period.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. I love that. I love that. Joanne.
Okay, one sentence. I would say when you go down the journey of self-development and open up the channels for you to become who you truly are, then miracles happen. Absolute miracles happen. And like a lot of people call them manifestations, but they can be little miracles, little chains of events that open up, the next step. It's like the signposts, following the divine breadcrumbs of what's possible. And when you feel those experiences, it just lights you up so that you can continue traveling on that path and finding more divine breadcrumbs.
I love it. Yes. Thank you, Jennifer.
When you operate from that place of your inner guru, then it will guide you on the highest path that you can have for your life. It aligns your vision and your mission, and it lets you light up the world, basically. Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. Yes, perfect. Perfectly said. Okay, we've got 5 minutes, and I want to give each of you just a second to talk about whatever you have coming up. Do you have a workshop? Do you have a free gift? Do you have an offer, something that will just, that you can share with the community? And then once you're done, then put your stuff in the chat so that Sophia can take it from there. So real quick, I know we're running out of time, but we've got 4 minutes. So a minute for each of you. Who wants to start? Jennifer.
All right. I think the best thing I can offer right now is that there's a group Zoom session coming up this Thursday, actually. And then again next week, I'm offering it twice. It's a half an hour to align and activate. So that's really helping. It's not one of these webinar sales pitchy kind of things. And it's not even an email opt-in. It's just join me on Zoom. We're going to gather for a half an hour and really align with your vision and mission and activate your soul's calling, activate your inner light so that you can be your own unique expression in the world and not succumb to the collective consciousness right now.
Love it. Beautiful. Perfect. Thank you. Jenn.
I should just mention that you can find that on my website, lightingthepath.ca, on the events page.
Okay.
So I'm the host of the Conscious Law of Attraction Tribe. We meet every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, I believe. And now, so daylight savings time, it's 2 p.m. Australian time. So you can always find me there. I also do a webinar every week where we go deep into the structures, the problem-oriented structure versus the creative structure, and why we oscillate, why we go 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and push a boulder up a hill and roll it back down over you. So if anyone's interested in that, that's free. It's awesome because I talk about it, and then we go through an experience, and I take you through the experience of the 5 steps and everything. So yeah, you can find me there. You can find all my information on Sacred You, and Sophia will post that.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Xavier.
So I've got a lot of free content out on Spotify. You can find me underneath Xavier King and Healing with Hypnosis. But I also have popped into the chat. I've got an ebook on Amazon around reuniting with your inner child. It's a healing guide. So it's just a short little ebook that takes you through some activities and exercises that you can do to reunite with that part of you, which will be really beneficial in paired with this conversation today.
Beautiful.
And you can find my other information, I believe, in the comments below this conversation today.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, Joanne, you're up.
Okay, so you can come find me on my group where you can access a lot of my free resources that and also actually book a complimentary 30-minute session with me where you can experience and I can guide you to the perfect resource that you need for you personally. I also work with frequencies, which is a whole nother level. So you'll get an experience of frequency alongside that in that 30 minutes so you can feel. That's it.
Perfect. Look at that. We did it, you guys. We did it. Sophia, we'd love to have you come on and talk more about Sacred You.
Thank you, Lisa, for that. And thanks, everyone, for a really interesting conversation. And for everyone who's been listening into, Gabrielle has also said, look, finishing off, that you get to know the real you, the higher self. And from this place of love, the empowered you is the universal flow and continues to reveal your soul's purpose. So thank you, Gabrielle. And Lisa, what I'd like to ask is, what about you? Tell us what you've got to offer, and also I'd love to know a little bit about the Magical Playground.
Yeah, so we've been having so much fun in the Magical Playground Tribe. So I co-host that with Josette Diaz, and we are we're creating so many magical things, and we bring through an intuitive, creative process. Where we've done kintsugi, where we've made pots, cracked pots, glued them back together, and that was all representative of self-love. We're doing a little accordion booklet that we've created, and we're going to be doing neurographica this month, which is just a way to really access your subconscious and have things manifest through art. So we do a lot of really fun projects, and that is every second and fourth Thursday, Friday in Australia. And we would love to have you join us. And that's really what I'm offering right now. I'm going to be doing something special for the hosts of the Sacred You. And I have a complimentary session. If you're interested, if you're wondering why you're not getting clients that say yes or that are doing the work, it might just be that you're missing something about your clientele. And so I can help you tap into what that is and how you can move forward. So I have a complimentary call that you can sign up for that too.
Thank you. And of course, we will put those details in the chat for you, and everyone else's. All the contact details are in the chat for everyone who's listening. And again, thank you. We've already mentioned Xavier's tribe, the spirituality adventures for gender diverse, as well as soul tarot with healing hypnosis, and Jenn's tribe, the conscious law of attraction. And breaking news, we may be very soon having another tribe called Empower You from our wonderful Joanne Irwin. Thank you, Jo. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? What's coming up with that? I know it's really breaking news, like it's only kind of yesterday.
It's going to be based on one of my signature programs. So it's, all the stuff that I do and teach in my work, connecting back into the self and, strategies, tips and processes that I use, maybe some hypnotics and some NLP thrown in, a bit of what people need. So it will be intuitively guided to what is, as I guess, needed, right? So that's exciting, and I'm looking forward to starting that. So thank you.
Thank you, and do hang out for that. And of course, Jennifer is our beautiful blog writer. So for all that, you can come and join all these tribes, plus many, many more, just for $1 Australian. Right now, just $1 Australian, you get to try out the Magical Playground and the soul tarot and healing hypnosis and gender spirituality Adventures for Gender Diverse and Conscious Law of Attraction and Joe's New Tribe and all of our other tribes just for $1 Australian. Try them all out for 3 weeks, and then after that it's just $15 Australian for that, and getting really soon. I will put all the links in the comments soon before our launch, which is coming up in May 20th, which we've got some really exciting news about that when it's ready. So thank you. Thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It has been a real pleasure. I've loved listening to the whole thing about accessing all that, our inner power, that inner knowledge, inner wisdom, inner guru, and what we can do to get rid of all the garbage. I love all the tips of the baths and the breath work. Totally agree. The breath work is really good. So thank you and have a beautiful day.